I'll take it over, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to come over with you. Just so,
That's fine, yep. Hello.
Just an gentleman stop repeating himself twice.
To be honest, Leanne, I'm more than happy to. It's okay.
Okay,
you
that's fine. I just wanted to make
I
sure
really
you didn't
appreciate.
have to.
Yeah, I
No,
really
that's
appreciate the
fine,
offer. That's cool.
absolutely.
Thank you. I've got a couple of queries that I'd like to discuss, if that's okay. I think we've met before, haven't we, at Newton Abbot?
You look familiar.
Yeah, I came in when I got a letter through on the 20th of July 2015. I got a letter through from Barclays and it had my name spelt wrong. So I live at number 12 Market Close. My name's Mr. Brodiemacleod. Right. I've got a middle name called Nathaniel. Right. And I received a letter on the same day, actually, as I got a letter through from the National Lottery, funnily enough, which had a whole load of spelling mistakes in it. And I got that letter through on the 20th of July 2015. And accompanied with that was another letter from Barclays Bank, where my middle name had been spelt wrong, and my address was also spelt wrong. And it was inviting me to be welcome to online banking, which I've been using for about 4 years. No, I'm not sure. I came in. I spoke with you at Newton Abbot branch.
Yeah, you have to forgive me.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just saying. I remember seeing you. I remember speaking with you distinctly there, and addressing my concerns with you about the stuff being wrong at that instance. And I think we replaced my card, and your colleague walked off with the bank card, which I was told had been destroyed. And then 3 days later, I bought on PayPal. I bought a part for a car, a radiator for a car, and I used a card present transaction with the PayPal terminal on that date. And when I made that card present transaction with the PayPal terminal, what I found was that the payment still cleared. Now you've got e-checks with PayPal, which are authorised payments with a sort code or account number, a bit like a direct debit. You've also got card present transactions, and I'm sure you know the difference between those. So this was one of the latter, and it's still cleared. And nobody at PayPal or Barclays could ever understand it. Anyway, Dominic, that's where we met before.
Right.
I've got those two letters in my bag, as it happens, from the lottery and from. I've received a number of other ones. I found when I'm going through my personal effects. I found a whole load of other letters, also with my name spelt wrong. Now, there's no way that my name could ever be spelt wrong by a bank's automated fulfilment system, and you don't type out, to the best of my knowledge, nobody would ever type out my name, and they wouldn't spell it wrong more than once, and they wouldn't put my address wrong more than once. I've also had a number of other suspicious communications, which brings us on to our first point. I went last week and met with a chap in Plymouth. I believe his name was James. I'd arranged to have a meeting with somebody else, and I turned up at the branch, and I got told by a man who was extremely nervous that it would be absolute havoc if you guys had a calendar system with everyone having an appointment on there. I asked where the person I'd arranged to have a meeting with was, and he said that she was off for 6 months, but that she would still remain on the calendar system because it would be far too complicated for Barclays to be able to run a calendar booking system for meetings with staff. He was quite adamant about this, and I sort of pressed him on it, and I said, I'm sorry, but I'm sure, if you went to speak to a restaurant manager and said, I booked table number 4, and he turned up and he said, I'm sorry, it's table 12. I mean, it's just, mayhem were his exact words. It would be mayhem if we tried to have every person that arranged a meeting meet with the person that they'd arranged to have a meeting with. Subsequently, following that, I went and had a meeting with this chap called James, and I raised a couple of issues with him. I wanted to find out some card details. I wanted to put a subject access request so I can correlate those dodgy correspondence I've had to real ones. And hopefully get some other details just from him in branch as well, relating to some old cards that I'd had, and asked him to search some transactions for me. James didn't have any ID, he didn't have any bank cards, and he wasn't able to search through transactions on the list of transactions that he's got there, unfortunately. So I was a bit perturbed by that. He asked me to clear security when I first went into the branch. He asked me to put my PIN number into a terminal, which I did, and then he asked me 5 minutes later to put it in again. I noticed that when I put it in the second time, it was displayed on the unit. Now, I've never had to log in twice with my PIN number when I've had a meeting with anybody in branch. I've logged in once, and that's been enough to access my system, and I've never had to log in twice. And I noticed that the second time he passed it to me, actually, it wasn't on the login stage, it was on a different stage, whereby the number that I'd put in, I believe, was displaying on the screen. which is a little bit unusual. He put in a subject access request for me, which is the first thing I'd really like you to help me with today, if you're able to. That was submitted a little while ago. Since then, I've received a dubious-looking email with just a number on there saying that they're going to phone me up and take some details. Now, majority of, I've just spoke with a lady at the front desk who's very kindly tried to tell me that you don't do subject ones and that I shouldn't try to make a subject access request. She told me that you can make requests for bank statements, but you can't do other ones. Yeah, no, it's just coincidence that she said that to me. Yeah, she's told me, she looks very, very nervous as well. I don't know if you should give her a cup of tea and hot chocolate and a cuddle. She doesn't look very happy at all. She's just told me that I couldn't do that, and James has also done that when I've asked in branch. I said what I'd like to request is all my details. So I said I want details of the Ping It app, which I've bought some national lottery tickets on, funnily enough, and details of all the application data related to that, and all the correspondence that I've got. I've got a couple of fraud investigations too, which have taken place, which look quite dubious. The letters, the typeface doesn't look right. The address and name is spelt wrong. The paper doesn't feel right. Had a couple of things which normally you would advise yourselves, in your security information to be wary of this sort of stuff. So I've asked to put in a subject access request, and he's unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, only put in a request for bank statements. So point one, Dom, would be great if you could help me with that.
Fine, yeah.
Cool.
To be honest, it's not the kind of thing I do every day. So just
no. I mean, I'd imagine it's not that common.
I know you can do it, so we'll get it done.
9 times out of 10, I know that most people are just requesting bank statements, but.
Hang on a tick.
Okay.
Have you got your card? I'm going to need to.
I do, yeah. That's fine.
Just give me a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I know how to do it. I don't quite know what's going on in the diary.
It's very unusual.
Sick, but usually someone else will see you.
This guy, in the kindest possible way, this guy was definitely full of shit. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, what he was saying was inferring that there was no, his continuity. He tripped over his statements about 4 times in a row, and the guy looked, just looked to be trying his best to try and claim that blue is black, and I almost felt for him because it was like there's no way really he could think of anything to say. And he tried to claim that I think it was I can't remember the lady's name, was Claire or Louise or something along those lines. Anyway, he tried to claim that this lady was off for 6 months, but that she was going to be still appearing on the calendar for 6 months, and couldn't explain why it was that I wasn't meeting with the lady I'd been due to meet with.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't know. Probably know 1 or 2 people.
No, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to. So you used to work in Newton Abbot then?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and you now work here, or?
Now work here, yeah.
Okay. What's your role, Dominic? What do you do in the bank?
They call it a moment banker. It used to be called a personal banker. They changed the name, so it's just account opening.
Yeah.
Wanting insurances and stuff like that kind of stuff. Doing what we're doing now, so it's just face-to-face stuff with customers, other than the general kind of transacting, putting money in, taking money out. So it's that kind of stuff. Let's have a quick look on the screen just to make sure this is all right. So your name is currently spelt correctly?
I think this is what I did with you last time, if I remember.
I mean, just check it now.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to double and triple check because it's worth doing.
Right, sorry.
Yes.
Forgive me, sorry. Which
all right.
one of these? Thank you.
So on my passport, which was used, I believe, to open the account, or maybe it wasn't, it's N-I-E-L.
No, it's N-A-T-H.
Yeah, it's N-A-T-H, but on the letter, in which it was spelt wrong, it was spelt I-A-L.
Right, okay.
In Nathaniel.
That's correct now, though.
It is, yeah. There's also Diorsa was my other. I did have 2 middle names. I've had posts from you addressed to Mr. B.N.D. Macleod. I think it might even say. Does it say that on my card, or no? It's just B.N. Macleod. I'm not sure.
No, that's all I got there.
Okay.
So subject access request. Hang on a second.